What's up, y'all? My name is Karina Cook. I am a tax and financial strategist. I'm a CEO, a businesswoman, a faith-led businesswoman at that. What's up, y'all? It's your host, Karina Cook, here with Evolving Out Loud. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to this channel. We would love for you to make sure you keep the notification bell on so that you can get updated when we drop our latest episodes. So today, I want to talk about leadership and being in leadership in rooms that really don't clap for you. Maybe they don't acknowledge you right away. You know, those spaces like board meetings, Rotary, advisory committees, where there's no cameras like that, no applause, just decisions that's going to help make an impact in somebody's life. And I think it's important to think about it because here's the thing. Sometimes most of the most powerful leadership does not happen when you're on stage. It happens in rooms where you're quiet, where there's quiet. There's nobody really watching. I want to just kind of give you a brief summary of what I work on outside of my businesses. And a lot of that is me serving on in a few different spaces here where I am in Solano County. And I'm on the board of Sustainable Solano, which focuses on building a stronger, more resilient community in this area. And I also sit on the Environment, Climate, and Advisory Committee, a mouthful, where we look at policies and long-term planning for sustainability for the environment and how that's going to impact us. And also the Rotary, which is about service and leadership in your community. And none of those rooms ever clap and have cameras. But really, that's where the most impact has been made, where I really have noticed. It's real, okay? And it has taught me what stewardship is like. It's not just about money, but influence and what your personal influence is like, and multiplying what God has given me and my business and leadership and in life. And one of the things I want to stress is that social media, right? It could be, I feel like it's it's an alternative reality, and that, you know, visibility on social media, and you got to get on social media. And I'm not knocking anyone who is, I am. And obviously it's working for people, but I think that we get that misconstrued, and then we take it out of context or take it out of what it truly is that is an enhancement to your business. Because when you step out of social media, there's life, right? And so being visible on social media and business culture, I feel like can trick us into thinking that that is influence, and that's the only influence, and that the more followers you have, the more people see you, the more applause that you have. And I really believe that that real influence really does happen when you're stewarding the resources and making decisions and putting yourself in leadership roles, shaping policies, you know. And once I started to realize that, I was like, man, this has been such a great walk and journey for my leadership, for my communication at best, okay? And before those things, I was in networking groups like BNI. Shout out to BNI, because BNI has showed me so much, y'all. There was a point in BNI where I literally, well, everyone there knew, like I said, I was like, I'm going to leave here being a speaker because I love to speak, but I want to sharpen my tools. And I was the wallflower at networking events. I would not talk to anyone. I'd be shy. But BNI had taught me how to be a leader, and how to be a leader for my business, but also how to uplift others first and put others before my business, and see the benefits of me doing that. And so that had showed me communication and being able to have like certain pitches where I get to the point. And we used to do this thing about 60 seconds. We had 60 seconds to tell what we did, get straight to the point, and the people who we were talking to should know exactly what we were looking for that week. So what was the client? Who do you help? How is that going to help me identify who I can send your way? And after taking or joining BNI and leaving, I have left with so many nuggets. Listen, I'm the one in the networking room. I'm going to the wallflower. I'm going to talk to the person speaking or not speaking. I'm going to make sure that I uplift my colleagues, my partners, before I start to talk about my business. But I've learned that where I need assistance is going out to talk about my business, because it has put me in a stage where I don't always talk about what I do outside of my work, I will go and do things and be a servant to other people and just be here to serve. And so even in these leadership roles that I'm telling you about, I literally will go there, serve, and be like, I made sure this happened. And then I won't really mention what I do, which there's a good balance that I'm working on with being able to still market who I am and what I offer, because that is still something that is still going to make an impact in people's lives in the marketplace and personally. So that's my little tidbit about BNI. I know I kind of got off track because I was on fire, y'all, about that. Because like I was on fire because it just sparked it up about like something completely different that is more networking. And when we start to talk about these roles, I'll give you an example of me in advisory environment. It's still a mouthful for me to say. Climate and Environment Advisory Committee. Okay. We have an audience, right? Because we have people, citizens who come in who can attend the meetings because they are public. And, maybe they want input though, right? They want to tell or hear what it is that's happening in their city, right? So that they can be abreast and aware of what's new and what needs to be adjusted or implemented. And so with that, I would say no audience in effect, because people will tell you a little part of it may be a little snappy. You never know what to expect. They're not there because they're enamored, right? They are there, but the decisions that we are making is going to affect the future of the city. Okay. So that is very important to conceptualize, because when you're in those positions, you really have to say what is it that I am doing and making an impact on, and how can I be present here? And you're not really thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about how much likes this is going to be, who's going to see it, or anything. You want to make sure that things are done right. And one of the scriptures that I love that talks or reminds me something about this is Matthew 6:4. In Matthew 6:4, they say, where your father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And so, that just shows you right there is that what could I be doing that's going to help enhance and better and multiply something else, someone else, and also what I'm currently doing. Okay. And so once I start to realize that, things start to shift. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to serve. God, you want me in these spaces? I'm going to do the best that I can. That is my offering. Okay. That is my offering, to be able to serve in a capacity that he needs me to serve in, and to help shape and make decisions and sharpen my leadership roles. That's beyond social media. So that's one thing. Now, another thing that I like to look at in these areas is stewardship. Okay. And when I start to look at stewardship is not just about money, right? It's not just how do I get money, manage it, and whatever. I believe stewardship is truly about your influence, your gifts, your talents, your time, and your calling. So the question I would ask myself is how am I multiplying what God has given me? How am I doing that? How am I multiplying it in my business, helping other entrepreneurs steward their finances? How is my influence in the Rotary and Sustainable Solano on the board, in these committees, when I'm volunteering anywhere else? How is that multiplying what you have given me? How am I stewarding it and bringing double back? Okay. And so that you can tell me, well job, my good and faithful servant, right? That's what I want to hear. And it's not just because I want to hear it. It's also because that's a part of my spirit. And so if you ask anyone who knows me, I'm a servant. I love to help other people and do things for other people. And I've learned to expand what I'm doing, right? Because I would be narrow-minded on what I did. But once I start to understand what leadership was and expand on that, the doors are open. The doors are open. And when you lead with that, then you're going to be blessed beyond measure. Okay? Because you're using what you currently have to enhance and increase something beyond the recognition, right? It is so humbling, you guys, to go to the Rotary and see what they're doing and hear them talk about polio and how many people they've helped. Literally had showed us it was a short film called Eager. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Eager, and it was about polio. And I didn't really know much about polio, but I learned so much about how it affects people, how much it has brung disparity amongst communities that had nothing, and how they were treated, and what the Rotary did as coming together as a community and being able to literally wipe out more than half of polio. There was a map showing us literally what the work was and what had been done in the fight that still remains for polio to really remove the remaining cases. But ultimately, the work had been done. It's still being done. But when you see that impact and you see that these entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders are literally just doing it because they want to see better. Y'all. And when I tell you, this is not something that they're going to highlight and display on social media. This is not something that they want credit for. And in fact, when you start to give them the credit, they're like shy and like, please don't. And this is something that I'm supposed to be doing. Right. And so when I start to see those things, it helps me really stay humble and to stay focused on making sure that I am being a leader and I am stewarding in every area of my life, and that I am doing what God is calling me to do, and not for praise, not for visibility, nothing. Just because it's the right thing to do. And just because I want to steward and give back with the strength and the tools that I have and the resources and the talents and the gifts that God has given me, because they're not mine. Ultimately, they're His to build His kingdom. I also believe that is true for my personal life also, with my kids, my clients, my friends, my family. And that is something that I've just been making sure that I practice and I make the forefront of what I'm doing. The scripture in Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart and working for the Lord. That scripture says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. Right. And that's like, God, I'm doing everything I need to do. I'm going to put my all into it, because I want you to think about, like, how do I define stewardship beyond just money? Literally think about this. Okay. Think about, how do I define stewardship beyond just money? Where else can I be a good steward? Right? Steward is managing something that really isn't yours. Maybe I manage somebody else's stuff. Maybe I manage this. Maybe I even manage my own gifts. But how do I manage and do it in a way that works for everyone in the greater whole, right? And that is one of the things that, when we talk about faith over finance, it goes beyond that, right? It goes beyond just the money, right? The money cannot be the center of your focus, right? Because then you become greedy and you start to make that your area of focus, and then you just get blind and your heart get hardened. When I said with the Rotary and things like that and the climate committee, I mean, when I think about, like, the most humbling entrepreneurs are really in quiet rooms with other business owners who bring real strategy, who bring financial wisdom to civic spaces. Like, when I come to the Environment Advisory Committee, I'm thinking about environment and climate, but I'm also thinking this is my financial wisdom coming here, right? In a civic space where I can still make a difference in the change in the community. And so when I realized that those rooms give me access to conversations that help shift a community, that make a difference, that make an impact, and it really shifts and makes impacts and creates outcomes that I would have even imagined. And I remember even when we did the Earth Day art walk, to see those kids and go to those schools and have them say what art meant to them and recognize them for doing good work, and to show them, like, you can do this and it's not hard. It's just what you put your mind to. That was so fulfilling. I would never forget that, because you got to think legacy is not just what you build. It's helping with the policies. It's helping with the partnerships. It's helping with people that you pour into, right? And I think, like, when I think about that, it's just such a blessing to be able to serve and, you know, to be able to make an impact. And, you know, like, I think, God, what room have you put me in and give me access to that I've overlooked? And that's a question that you can ask yourself. Like, what rooms did you put me in to make an impact? Or what rooms did you put me in that you gave me access to that I overlooked, that I just took lightly? Because we can do that. That happens, y'all, more often than you think. And, you know, I had to realize my impact and what I bring to the table and the rooms that I go in, and humbling myself to know that it's more than just showing this. And a lot of times I don't even show all this. Sometimes I take videos or, things for my own memories and all that, but I don't post it because I don't want to get the credit for this. But it's humbling to be able to be a part of this process. And so when we think about leaders and CEOs and entrepreneurs who love philanthropy work, who just give back and want to be a part of the community, and not just thinking from a financial lens of like, how can I impact my family and myself? I truly believe it goes way beyond that, because if a pastor just says, how can I impact my family and myself, then we would be left behind. I don't believe that was something that he was called to do, right? In fact, we talked about this in one of the books we read with John Bevere, and it was funny that he had brung that up because it's so true and evident. But we don't just shift that to the pastor. We have that responsibility ourselves, is to go out and multiply in every area to help other people. And it's not just on the money side of things. It's not just to have financial wealth and financial wisdom to build a legacy just so my family doesn't have to. What else? And what else? And this is not to say that maybe everybody cannot do this, but I do believe everyone can give back, whether it's looking at communities and organizations that align with your values and morals. Think about what that truly is and where you can make an impact with what you currently do, and how these organizations and people look for you and need you, and you deserve to be in those spaces, in those rooms, and to build your leadership roles and leadership, and also like give your perspective on things and feel good about what you're doing outside of your business, right? Because business turns off. Sometimes family turns off. Sometimes you even need to be alone, right? So I just encourage you not to underestimate those rooms that you're in, even if they're not giving you applause, because just know that it's something that you were probably called to do anyway without that, right? And so if I think about obedience and being obedient in those rooms, that's kingdom work. I'm like, thank you, God. I just want to get pat on the back by God. Like, you good, faithful servant, you did that. That is kingdom work right there. And my thing is, like, you're not called. I'm not called. We're called to multiply. We're not just called. We're called to multiply what God has given us and put in our hands and steward it how he needs us to steward it. So I encourage you guys to think about that. Think about what it is that you can get into. What is it that I have access to or that I've overlooked that I can make an impact? What have I really what are my values? Maybe this gives you a time to really think about what your values are, what your morals are, and what you truly believe in, and then start aligning with that mission. I tell people all the time, maybe you don't, when we talk about tax strategy, maybe you do not need to create another nonprofit. Maybe you just need to give to one that's already there that aligns with what you currently believe in. And so, y'all, this is Evolving Out Loud. We're here. We're being leaders. It isn't just about claps and pats on the back and seeing what you did. It's about what your calling is. It's about you keep continuing to build, keep showing up, and keep evolving. And I love you guys. I cannot wait to see you next time. And remember, we are evolving, and we are evolving out loud and doing it together. Like, subscribe, and share. I'll talk to y'all soon. exciting to say the least, and I'm happy that I'm doing it with you guys. Until next time, I love y'all, and welcome to Evolving Out Loud.